All right, let's get you hooked. It's time for episode number 5 of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips. Man, we made it. I don't know how we waited 8 months. It's finally back, though. College football is here. We are so excited you're alongside with us, alongside legendary Longhorn head coach Mack Brown and legendary quarterback Vince Young. I'm Bob Ballou. We appreciate you taking your time to listen to us as we get ready for college football season. Texas and Ohio State Saturday at the Shoe. We ask you to follow along with us anywhere on social media at the Stampede UT, and check out your podcast on YouTube. You can watch us or listen anywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else. Guys, how are we feeling? We had to wait 7.5 months for this. It's back, though. How are we feeling?
Feeling Vince? Good. Feeling great.
What Vince would say to me that the week of the game was, it's here, baby.
It's here, baby.
It's showtime. Here, Pops. We ready to go, man.
It's showtime. I'm feeling it for him right now. Or is it the Rise strip that I got in me right now?
It's probably a little bit of both. Little adrenaline coming from both sides. We got so much to get into today. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about what's going to happen at the Shoe on Saturday. We're going to give out some superlatives, some predictions that we're going to make about this Texas football season. Get into the SEC schedule a little bit too. You know, shifting to that 9-game schedule, what that means for Texas. And then we'll close it out by hearing these guys talk about the experience in Columbus, Ohio in 2005 when Texas went up and won 25-22. But let's get started with this week, what everything is like for this buildup on Saturday. Texas they went through everything mock. They stayed at the hotel on Friday. They did a little thud scrimmage on Saturday. How important is that to get everybody in a routine and into game week mode, Vince?
Well, I mean, to start to get in that mindset, as a player, you want to feed off coach. He's going to explain to you at team meetings, what we finna do for the week. Now it's up to you as a player to, focus in on what he's saying, what he wants out of all of us as a team. So, it's time to get your mind ready for the game, start preparing and, for travel. Do you have all your notes? All these type of things. Want to get that feeling. And the much pressure that, coach can take off us as players, it helps us focus more on the game. What are our goals? What do we need to do as a defensive standpoint, as an offensive standpoint, as a special teams standpoint, understanding that. And then once you get it in your head and then you go through the motions of like it's a game week, it actually relaxes you. And it makes you focus on what you need to do. So, I really do appreciate our coaching staff for doing that, because that's why the coaches coach and the players play. And I really do appreciate Coach Brown doing that. It helps us prepare ourselves to play and get in that mindset.
The only anxiety Vince felt was the cramping of the legs on the airplane. Everything else was just easy for him. Coach, what was the anxiety you were feeling 20 years ago getting ready to go to Columbus?
Well, if I'd have known 20 years ago that our star was cramping up in the back, I would have gone to the back and let him sit up front with Sally, and that would have been a whole lot better. No, game week is fun. You've been hitting each other. You've been practicing against nothing, just trying to get your fundamentals down and do better. Now you got a purpose, and you need to be you. You got to stay where your feet are. You can't start thinking about, I got to do more this week, because you should have done it every day. And if you've practiced every day like it's game week, then you're ready to go, because you've already created that edge. And as Vince said, you're already in shape. You've already hit enough. So this week is to tune up. There's a heavyweight fight on Saturday, and all you're doing is greasing the body. You're getting rested. You're getting your sleep. You're putting yourself in the right mindset. And as Coach Sarkisian and the guys did this weekend, they simulated Friday night, which I thought was really smart of them. They went to a hotel. They had Friday night meetings. They got up and did pregame meal on Saturday, 7 hours before the game. They bus to the stadium. They wear their clothes that they're going to wear at the game. They come out. They might have even had the band out there. And then they go through pregame warm-up. You get there 2 hours before the game. The game is at 12 Eastern Standard Time, so they scrimmaged at 11. So they did the pregame that they're going to do at Ohio State. So you actually simulate everything. Simulate somebody getting hurt. Who's going to substitute? What happened in last week's games? You sit as a coach and player and look at those things. There's a fumble pitch for Iowa State going in. There's a fumble punt by Kansas State to start the game. Their star running back gets his ankle turned. He's out of the game. Who comes in? What does that change with your rotation at running back? What kind of a leash do you have on quarterbacks? Well, these are young. Saying threw 12 balls last year, completed 5 for 84 yards. So how is Ryan Day, who is this is two great coaches and great people and two of the best rosters in the country, how are they going to handle the quarterbacks early? Neither one have played a lot of football. So this is a huge matchup. How do you start that? Plus, Vince will tell you the quarterbacks never got hit. They don't get hit in practice, so they've got the worst ball security of anybody. And we saw it the other day, even in the opening game, because they haven't been hit.
And coach used to get mad at me because I used to tell the defense, hey, nut me, man. Give me a little bit.
I'd say don't hit him enough to hurt him. If you do, you're off scholarship. That's
exactly.
just a fact.
And they was like, no, well, I'm not touching you.
Yeah, hit him if you want, but it's got scholarship in your mouth. So that's it. But then they have the game plan. They go over the game plan. They go every special team situation. They go through substitution. They talk to the player. Then you've got your travel squad. You've got who's going to play where, how many plays you think you're going to play in the game. This is a huge week for just suddenly looking at everything that's going to happen on Friday after they get off the plane in Columbus and during the ball game.
And this is such a unique circumstance for both these teams to enter a game without any kind of warm-up game, scrimmage game, whatever you want to call it, like you guys did with Louisiana when you beat them 60-3 back in 2005. But, 2 weeks ago, Sark talked about the pre-snap penalties and the issues they were having. They've pumped in crowd noise. They're trying to do everything they can to get the preparation part of this ready so that when this first game day comes and they're at the Horseshoe and the crowd's going crazy, 102,000, there aren't pre-snap penalties. They're disciplined. You got to pack your defense. You've got to run the ball, and you've got to be disciplined. Vince, how much did you guys emphasize those things going into a game like Ohio State?
A lot. I mean, it's very important because one screw up will cost you a game. I really believe in that game of inches. And one of the things that coach always preaches, like, we have to have less mistakes than the opponent. And when we do that, you actually have a shot of winning the ball game, especially in a big game like this. One of the things Texas didn't do really good last year was in the red zone. You have to understand when you get down there in that area, you have to finish because of the fact that if you don't and you get a turnover in that hostile environment, they're going to feed off that. That's feeding them to go be who they are, explosive team that makes plays. A lot of times that, when you get a turnover, that's what coach was saying. They're going to throw that play in that's going to make the crowd roar and get excited. So you have to worry about your team and make sure you execute the play and get in the end zone. And then also penalties, like you just said. That is another one. First and 15 or second and 13, you know how hard it is to get a first down in a hostile environment. Even 3rd and 4 is hard in a hostile environment. So you have to make sure that you almost play a perfect game, which is not doesn't happen at all. But you got to make sure you play almost a perfect game. So when you go out there and you're making these plays and coach is preaching these emphasis when we at practice, you have to figure out how to transfer what you did at practice into the game. And being one of the leaders from myself, from Selvin Young, from the offensive line standpoint, we all have to be in communication to make sure that we don't have penalties or we don't have turnovers or we get in the red zone and we, didn't finish like we're supposed to. So that is us. Coach Brown and Coach Davis and the rest of the coach staff did everything they were supposed to do to get us prepared to play. They're not on the field now. They're on the sideline. Now it's up to us to go transfer everything that we did for preparation to the game field and not have any mistakes. And I really feel like that's going to be a major key for Texas going down in the shoe.
And Bob, you can simulate crowd noise. You can't simulate 106,000 screaming that don't like you at all. Exactly. And you can't simulate dotting that I before the game when those people get excited. Yes. And you can't simulate being on that sideline in front of millions of people on TV. And there's a very misunderstood statement by coaches a lot. Coaches will say more teams lose the opening games than they win it.
Yeah.
Because you mess up more than the other team. and it is the one that makes the fewest mistakes. You haven't had a live scrimmage for sure, like a game. You haven't tackled as much. Vince just said goal line short yardage is huge in this game. It's hard to do that full speed all the time because how tired do you get? Who do you get hurt? You won't see Jay Baxter hurt again.
Mhm.
You got to be careful. How many times can he touch it until he goes against Ohio State? And that's just a key part of what the head coach is thinking going into the game. Did I get him in shape? Did I run him too much? Did I keep him out in the heat too much? Did I keep him out in the heat enough? Did I hit enough? Did I hit too much? Did we scrimmage enough? Did we not scrimmage enough? Did that freshman get enough action in practice? How's he going to respond in an opening game? And we see some great opening games this weekend, better than in the history. You're talking about the LSU's going to Clemson's. I mean, you're talking about Alabama going to Florida State. And that can happen now easier because of the playoff. Clemson gets killed by Georgia in the opener last year. They still win the ACC. They go to the playoff. In the past, when Vince and I were playing BCS, you lose that game to Ohio State in the second week after Louisiana, you're out of the playoff. I mean, you're not going to be in the BCS, the two, if you lose early.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of that because I really think there is some there. I mean, there are obviously question marks for both these teams. There are question marks all over the field because of how many guys went to the NFL last year. 32 players in the NFL from this just from this Texas Ohio State game in January. So I want to get into the anxiety that you guys feel going into this because of all of those things. You know, last year at Michigan, Cam Williams had a couple false start penalties early, kind of got to him, but the rest of the team was pretty experienced. That offensive line was experienced. How much anxiety is there about the offensive line? Arch Manning, I feel like everybody just feels like he'll be fine. He's still making, his third start of his career, and he's going to go through a lot of these emotions too. So what do you guys feel going into this game? Vince, number one for Arch Manning, kind of making his third start, but really the first start of his era at Texas, and the anxiety you guys kind of feel about the offensive line and some of the question marks at different positions for this Texas team.
Well, I mean, from my standpoint, when I went into the game, I didn't really focus on that. I focused on that. I had so much confidence in my teammates. I felt like they was going to play well. Even if they did make a mistake, I wasn't one of those guys that's going to point it out. That's not my job. We had a great coaching staff that would take advantage and do whatever they need to do to get guys on the same page. But me, I was more so trying to motivate guys and
that was my job.
Yeah,
I was a bad guy.
that.
Sally
Coach
gave me
was the bad
cookies.
guy.
You picked them up. I had to yell at them.
Yeah, that wasn't not my job. My job was to get the guys to go out there and play some football and have fun doing it. And yeah, we're in a hostile environment. Yes, all these things are these media and everything. Everybody's saying this. We're number one. All this crap going on, but that wasn't for us. It was for us to go do our job. And so for Arch, and as well as saying, these two guys are a dual threat. These guys can throw the ball and they can run the ball. And they don't have many, games underneath their belt, but in the same time, I feel like they can play the game. And we have to understand that from both sides of the ball, that you can't go out there and think because Julian didn't have a lot of snaps that he's not going to play. You better get that out your mind because of the fact, like Coach just said, everybody's been waiting to play somebody else. And yes, we're a number 3 team in the country as Ohio State. Yes, we're number 1 team in the country. You got to live up to that hype. You got to go out there and play some football. And when you got two guys like that you don't really have an understanding about, I feel like both guys can feed off that. I can go out here and kind of feel my way into the game until I get my rhythm. And it's up to the coaching staff, the offensive coordinator to get them in their rhythm, 3-step drops, slant routes, RPOs, stuff like that to get them going. Because when I felt like I played better when I got hit. It took a while for me to get in my zone until I get hit in the head one time or get tackled, then I'm ready to go after that. So a lot of people can get in their rhythm, throwing their first completion and things like that. But me, I wanted to get hit. I wanted to get tackled. I wanted to feel it and okay, let's go. So whatever that is for both of those guys, they got to use that as an advantage for themselves so they can go out there and have a really good game and stop worrying about what everybody else is talking about. It's just all about you and your team right now. And then go out there and show it, because obviously you did something right to get that starting position. Second of all, your teammates is behind you. You're not out there by yourself. Don't try to put everything on yourself. Just take what the defense give you. That was one of the things that we used to say at Texas. This, if it's not there, throw it away. If it's there, don't force it. Don't force it. Just go about what you've been doing every week in camp and just play the game. And don't try to be Superman. If them guys go do that, I really feel like they're gonna have a really good game. And I feel like Coach Stark's gonna put Arch in a good position. He's comfortable with him now. He understands the plays. When you have a guy like that is an offensive guru like Coach is, he's going to put you in great positions. So now you just got to go out there and just play the game and not try to be Superman.
Bob, it was really interesting that both teams have labels, but neither team has an identity at this point.
Yeah.
You get your identity on the field. So, and Steve's done a tremendous job of saying the number one ranking means absolutely nothing. We haven't earned it.
All right.
Arch has done a great job of saying it. We're circled. We got red dots on all them too. We're coming after them. It's kind of like Ricky Williams before the Nebraska game saying the black shirts got the problem, not me, man. And I said, "Why you say that?" It's kind of like Vince saying, "We'll be back." I said, well, it's a little cocky. No, it's confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's confidence. So I loved what Arch said this week leading into the ball game. But you're going to get your identity during the game. If Coach Sarkisian's calling plays and they're really struggling blocking the Ohio State front, he's going to have to change the game plan. Then he goes to the short passes. Then he gets things spread out a little bit. Same thing with Coach Day. He's got a new offensive coordinator in Heartline, but Ryan's called plays his whole life. So he's going to be very involved in that. New defensive coordinator for Ohio State, Matt Patricia. What's he going to do? Is he going to change the look? Is it going to be a 3-down instead of a 4-down? Well, you got it, but you got to change the game plan as you're going through it. So, again, your identity will be after you leave that game. And you'll learn, both these teams will know a lot more about themselves leaving that stadium than they do going in.
Yeah.
And that's the key. We knew leaving the stadium when we beat Ohio State, we're good.
And
we got a
chance.
We got a chance to win them all.
And they got to believe in themselves and like, hey, I'm not the team for last year. I'm not the team for the year before. When we left, Colt McCoy and them, they had to make their own identity. They couldn't be the team that just won a national championship. And they did. And I enjoyed watching those guys take it all the way to the championship game, even though it was a tough loss. But to see them guys find their identity is a major thing in this first game. And Arch had to say that as a leader to his team. Like, we're not the team from last year. Those guys are gone. They are in the NFL doing their dream, what they worked their butt off to be at. This is our team now. So let's find our identity. And they have to really say that and mean it when they say it.
And Bob, we had to fight winning the national championship. Right. Everybody's bragging on you. You get your rings in late April or May, and you got to go to the next year. And Ryan Day's done a tremendous job. I heard the other day they're not going to wear their rings. You got to earn them. This year's team's got to earn their rings. But that's why very few teams can repeat after winning a national championship. Everybody's still patting you on the back. Well, as Vince just said, new identity, new team, got to start over. This team hadn't done anything yet for either group.
Right. And that was something Steve talked about this week. He said, we're going to find out a lot about ourselves, but this game won't define our season. If they win this game, great. If they lose this game, okay. But there's a possibility they're going to play 17 games this year. So a game in August, this team will be very different. By the time, it better be very different and much better when January comes and they're trying to get into the college football playoff. All right, I'm going to put your media hat on a little bit here. I know you guys love preseason predictions.
Do you like my media hat?
Yeah, it's nice. The bucket hat's nice. It's a good look. So let's do some predictions. Let's do some superlatives for some of the guys on this Texas offense and defense that you think are going to be pretty special this year. So I'll let you guys start. Who are your offensive and defensive MVPs for this Texas team once we're all said and done?
Vince?
Well, I got to go with Arch. I'm a quarterback, so I got to go with the quarterback room. I really feel like he's going to be he's been so hungry and so motivated and so humble. I mean, it's just so fun to see him on campus when I'm there, to even talk to him, to see his swag, even challenging me. I was throwing the ball out there, and he was like, "Do you still got it, Vince?" I'm like, "Hold on, play. Better watch your mouth, young man." But just to see that and have a fun conversation with him is just to show you where he's at. And I know he's excited about playing because, first of all, as a quarterback, when somebody tell you you can't or putting pressure on you, that all that does is motivate you. When I had an opportunity to play against Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Matt Leinart, I'm really comparing myself to these guys. How can I match up and play against these guys? And I know that Art's been doing that, behind the scenes, watching uh, Quinn play, watching some of the guys that he saw with Monroe in Alabama playing against these other quarterbacks. He's been sitting there waiting. So I know he's itching. So once he gets that ball in his hand, Coach Stark says, you have the keys to the Hummer or the Ferrari, whatever things they riding over there at Texas. When Coach give you the keys to that thing, do not look back. Just go play the game and do what you got to do. So I picked Arch Manning to be the MVP because he is definitely hungry and ready for it.
Yeah, Bob, the Carpenter challenged Vince before the Ohio State game. If we could just get somebody to make Vince mad, we didn't even have to have a pregame talk because he'd get that chip on his shoulder and he was going to prove them wrong, man, to do it. I would take Arch as 1A. It's obvious, everything that Vince said. And I would take Trevor Goolsby Arch is 1 and Trevor is 1A because new offensive line, Trevor's experienced. He's a great player. He's got to protect the outside edge. And he's got to be the leader on Saturday at noon when this bunch gets stirred up. And there's going to be a time, momentum changes. There's going to be a time in the game where things aren't going well. It happened to us in the USC game. Vince changed that momentum. He just went down and started talking to him. There's going to have to be older, confident heads in that ball game Saturday that say, we're good. Yeah. We're good. Keep your head up. Keep working. Let's don't let this thing, let's get the momentum back. You got to get the momentum back to get what you need.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. I think Arch he's the obvious pick, but I think you think about all the hype around him and everything that's gone into him getting to this point. I think Arch exceeds expectations this year. I think he's better than what people think he's going to be. I don't think people really get how good he's going to be. And I think that's as much as they're giving him hype and saying all these things about him, I really do think he's going to be that good. I love the offensive line pick because that's going to be huge for this team this year.
Yeah.
I love Ryan Wingo too. I think Ryan Wingo is going to absolutely have a massive year and break out for this Texas team. He could possibly end up being the offensive MVP. All right, let's do defensive MVPs, and then we're going to save the other superlatives before for our next segment. So, Vince, who's your defensive MVP this year?
Well, I got to go with my man Michael Ty. Man.
Love it.
That young kid right there, I've been watching him since Westlake days. So, he came down and played in the playoffs against North Shore. I took my kids and we saw him at DB, and just to see where he's at today, got a great relationship with his family. And I'm just very excited about him. He plays hard. He does what he's supposed to do. He gets interceptions. He's just a good kid. And then my next guy would be Simmons, for sure, Simmons. Yeah. I saw this guy last year in the SEC championship when that running back broke on a big run, and for him to chase down him from not scoring that touchdown, that was huge. That showed me what type of player he is, because a lot of guys could give up on the play. But for him coming from a D-line standpoint and chasing him down, that what shows you what kind of heart and leadership guy that he is. So I go with Simmons and Mike Tapp, my two guys.
All right. Coach?
And Bob, I totally understand. Michael Taft's great. You got to, and nobody's better than Colin, and they're both great young people. But you got to be strong down the middle, and that's what Vince was talking about at safety. I'm going to go with Anthony Hill Jr. at linebacker because right in the middle, those linebackers have tough jobs. They got to stop the run. They got to stop the pass. They got to blitz the quarterback and run over the running back. And I just think Anthony's got to have a great year for that Texas defense to be able to stand up inside with as many new defensive linemen as they have.
Hey, we're picking between 3 preseason first-team All-Americans here. So it's not like
Yeah,
we're
we're
going
really
to make
smart.
a bad choice.
Right.
I really, really want to take Colin Simmons, but I'm with you, Coach. I think Anthony Hill's the guy that has to keep this. He's going to be the glue of this defense. Colin Simmons is off the charts good. And Michael Taff is everything that everybody wants him to be. So it's going to be one of those 3 guys, and I think all of us are going to have some fun watching those 3 guys play this year. All right, we're going to get to some more superlatives, some more picks for our this Texas team this year coming up, but we're going to take a break first. You are watching The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips. We're back after this.
Game days are a marathon. Tailgates in the morning, kickoff in the afternoon, and celebrations that can stretch late into the night. You need energy you can count on without the sugar crash or jitters.
These aren't your typical energy drinks. Rise Energy Strips give you clean, natural energy you can carry in your pocket. No cans, no spills, no hassle.
And no waiting around wondering when it's going to kick in.
Exactly. Each strip has 50 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources, plus vitamin B12, L-theanine, and electrolytes, all from natural ingredients. They dissolve under your tongue, so they work up to 5 times faster and are 10 times more efficient than pills or energy drinks. 0 sugar, 0 calories, and the convenience to keep them anywhere in your pocket, wallet, or gym bag, so you've always got clean, natural energy when you need it.
Yeah, I could have used these back in my playing days. It would have saved me from carrying around a can like it's part of my uniform. With these, pop a strip, fill it fast, and you ready to roll. That's a winning game plan.
And now you can try them yourself. Get 25% off your first order at riseup.com/stampede.
That's RIIZEUP.com/stampede. Rise Energy Strips. Smart, simple, and built for the long game.
If you love Wendy's classic Frosty flavors, we have some big news for you. They're all new Frosty Swirl and Frosty Fusion flavors. So it's the same creamy treat you've always loved, now with a flavor refresh. So what are the new flavors?
Well, thanks for asking. There are a lot, so I'm just going to list them all. Here we go. You've got the Frosty Swirls, strawberry, brownie batter, and caramel. Then we've got the blended Frosty Fusions, caramel crunch, Oreo brownie with swirled thick brownie batter sauce, and crunchy Oreo cookie pieces, and Pop-Tarts. Strawberry with a sweet strawberry sauce and chunks of crazy good Pop-Tarts pieces. Not to mention that, yes, you can still get your classic vanilla. Try them all to find your favorite. Are you going to be a strawberry swirl girl, a caramel craze fanatic, brownie batter buff, Pop-Tart strawberry fanatic, Oreo brownie stan? Anyway, whatever flavor you're craving, odds are we've got a Frosty for it.
So clock in for a sweet treat time with Wendy's all new Frosty flavors. A refresh on a classic? Gotta be Wendy's.
All right, welcome back to episode number 5 of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns alongside Mack Brown and Vince Young. I'm Bob Ballou. We appreciate you joining us for this episode, and we gave our offensive and defensive MVPs before we went to break. Let's come back with our newcomer or freshman of the year on this Texas team. Who do you guys like as somebody, maybe a name somebody doesn't know yet, or somebody that we're kind of looking to as a incoming guy that came in from the transfer portal or a freshman? Vince, who do you like?
Newcomer, I have to go with Emmett Mosley. When you got a guy that's, got a couple of reps underneath their belt and they understand, a little older as well, and he's excited to be at Texas, I think he's going to be one of those receivers that just come out of nowhere that we need to take a little pressure off Wendigo and all these guys more. I think he's going to come in and make some big plays for us. And I love that because we always had a receiver in our room that was the underdog that nobody really talk about. And Billy Pittman was one of those guys for us. And he came out of nowhere. I was like, Coach, what is wrong with Billy? And he was one of those guys that come tap me on my shoulder like, VY, throw me the ball. I'm open. And I went back and watched a lot of film on him, and he was actually open.
And Billy made a huge play at Columbus.
In Columbus, a couple plays, touchdown and everything. So when you have that guy they're really not focused on, those guys are the ones that tend to make big plays for us when we need them. So I think Mosley's going to be one of those guys that's going to do really good because they not focused on him, is not paying attention to him. But they forget that he has a lot of snaps underneath his belt and he can make some plays.
Had a really good first year at Stanford. All right, Coach, who you got?
Mine is Jack Endres,
Yeah.
the transfer tight end from
Love
Cal.
that pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve's done such a good job with tight ends. Sanders Helms in the NFL.
Yeah.
He goes to his tight ends a lot. With young receivers, he's probably going to lean on these tight ends, and you can get the ball to their hands quicker. David Thomas and Bo Scaife, such a factor for us during Vince's run there. But I just feel like that from everything I'm seeing and hearing and Steve's philosophy, that Jack's going to have a big year.
Yeah,
there are a lot of guys that I want to name here because I think there are a lot of guys that came in that are talented and can have a really good year. I think Anthony Smith's one of them. I think Grayson Littleton, the freshman's going to have a big year back in the secondary for Texas. I like Kobe Black too. I could go through a lot of names. I like Murad Watson, the freshman All-American that transferred in from Syracuse. I think he's going to have a big impact on that defensive line. The rotation there is going to be really interesting to watch how they develop that defensive front. They're probably going to play 5-6 guys there and rotate them in. So they've got some big bodies. But the freshman All-American out of Syracuse, I think Murad Watson by the end of the year is going to be a guy that's pretty special for this Texas defense. All right, Vince, your offensive breakout player is who?
CJ Braxton.
Oh, he's back. I love it.
That guy is hungry. I saw him walking around, and he looks slimmer. Got the smile on his face. He excited that he finally got his Rang's chicken NIL deal. He like, Vince, do you know those guys over there? I need to get that. He finally got it. So he has some things that he could be excited about for that. Just because what happened to him. You know, any player that goes through that type of injuries and been sitting back there and hungry, man, it's tough mentally. So actually it helps you mentally to stay tough. But I'm excited to see him play this year because he was starting to get on the roll last year before he got hurt. So I'm excited for him because he's a really good kid and he deserves it.
His teammates are talking very strongly about what he's done in preseason camp. They're very excited to see him play. Mack, who do you have?
Well, I love Vince's choice, and I heard Arch say that he's like a coach on the field. He's so smart. So you're really pulling for CJ after last year. My pick number A would be Ryan Wingo because he can step up, and he's a good player, and we all know it. And it's kind of an easy choice, but he's like a Roy Williams getting ready to break out. And 1A would be Brandon Baker because we need that right tackle to step up. And he's a guy that, especially after the injury they had in the offensive line, that he can have just a great year.
I love that pick too because that whole offensive line across the front is going to need to be really good, and they are very high on Brandon Baker and what he's bringing to the offense. All right, mine's a little under the radar, and a guy that not a lot of people are talking about. I think Parker Livingston's going to have a really big year for Texas. I think the idea that Arch Manning spent the last year as the number 2 quarterback throwing to the number 2 guys in that offense of Ryan Wingo and Parker Livingston every week. There are some people that have watched him play. He's a deep threat. He makes a lot of plays in the intermediate routes. I think Parker Livingston's going to have a big year. So that's my offensive breakout player. All right, Vince, who's your defensive breakout player this year?
I say Jalen Gilbo.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys that he has sat there and saw a lot of great DBs play last year. And a lot of things that I was reading about the young man, he made a lot of tackles, a lot of behind the line of scrimmage tackles, fumble recovery, interceptions. So just believe that you playing in the DBU, right? You got Michael Huff kind of breathing down your neck every day. And then when I see him, he's in great shape. He's excited. I'm challenging. I'm pushing him. Like, what you gonna do? Or you about that life? He like, OG. I'm like, first of all, don't call me OG. I'm still pretty young. I'm young forever. Anyways. But I'm excited about seeing him play this year because of the fact he didn't see. My guy just left and went to the Broncos.
Yeah, Jahdae Barron. He made the same move that Jahdae made. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, it made a great step of watching him play and getting the Thorpe Award and things like that. I think that motivated him to go out and have a really great year this year.
Just had a baby. He's a dad now. He's really excited about that. That's one of the motivating factors for him now too. So he's very excited about his season this year. Coach, who do you have on the defensive side?
I'm going back down the middle on defense. I've got safety Jelani McDonald.
Yes.
6'2", out of Waco, can run, and he and Michael Taft will create just horror for the opponents down the middle. So those receivers always know who's in the middle. And when they're down there and they start looking around, you know that you got the right guys. And the best thing about what we're doing, all of these guys that we're picking are really good players, which shows you the depth and the talent that's just out there on this field right now that's about to show up.
Yeah.
I'm going to be quite honest. This is one of the categories that I only wrote down one name. I had a bunch of names in a bunch of different categories, and the name was Jelani McDonald. So I'm right there with you, Coach. I just think he's going to have a really big year. I think they were so high on what they thought he could do toward the end of last year. They said, and all those guys, Jade and Taff and Andrew Makuba, those guys were like, man, Jelani's coming next year. Be ready for that. So I like Jelani McDonald there. All right. I like this question. What constitutes success for Texas in 2025? And they're going to accomplish their goals if what? And I'm gonna start with this. I don't think you can go into a season and say maybe 05, but there aren't many seasons you can go into and say it's national championship or bust. I think with everything they're replacing and all the question marks that kind of surround who they're going to be, I think a deep run in the playoffs is acceptable. I think that's successful. Do you guys think it's national championship or bust with this team? And how do you kind of view what they're going to go through this year?
Vince?
Well, they've been through the adversity, so, when you have a coach that is somebody you want to play for and understands what we need to do to get there, the last 2 years has just been mistakes. I feel just knowing who you are, what we said about who your identity is, and then that red zone has to be fixed. That's going to make or break Texas football this year. The importance of it, knowing when we get, because they do a really good job of getting in that area, and then all of a sudden, here come the mistakes. And what I was saying earlier, you can't have that. So I really feel like they know how to get there. I feel like they know how to finish. But right now, that when you got a quarterback now that can move and is mobile and is a dual threat, I feel like that's going to help them get over that edge. So I hope coaches is really on them guys about the importance of when we get in that red zone, that we have to score or get a field goal and not be in penalties and turning the ball over.
Sark was great about that this week. He knew it was coming. He knew somebody was going to ask him about the red zone. And when they did, he goes, "You guys want a stat?" Like he was just like, he was ready for it. And he said, 2 years ago, we were 50% touchdowns in the red zone. Last year, we went up to 64% touchdowns in the red zone. So we made improvements. We got to get better, but we're taking the right steps. So I think he feels like he knows I think it's kind of that one thing hanging over his head. Like we know we've got to be better in the red zone. It obviously is hanging over his head from the Ohio State game when they had first and goal at the 1, couldn't get in, and then Jack Sawyer went the other way. So
but especially I think there's the big games. Like, we did big games, good in the games Georgia, that we're supposed to win.
Yep.
But it matters with those big games.
Absolutely. Coach, is it national championship or bust?
Well, and Vince, somebody told me if you don't think it's a big game, lose it, and then it becomes a big game at Texas. So that's true too. They're all big games if you lose them. If you win, you're supposed to.
That's exactly right.
I think this team is so much like our team in 05. I go back, and it was really interesting that this team last year forced 31 turnovers. Our team in 05 forced 31 turnovers, and we ended up +5 because we had too many on offense. So cutting down turnovers is going to be a key. But I thought in 05, we started out by take dead aim. Harvey Pinnock quote that was our theme for the year. Don't think about anything else. You take dead aim on win the national championship. And that was set up by Vince in Los Angeles saying, we'll be back. Then secondly, Matthew McConaughey and Roy Spence with GSD&M, a tremendous friend of Texas and the state championship quarterback at Brownwood. They sat down and got together and said, all right, your goal is to win the conference championship. That should be it every year. You need to win your conference championship, and then your dream is to win the national championship. And that doesn't put so much pressure on you, but you're taking dead aim at it. You've got to win the conference championship, put yourself in a position for sure to win the national championship, and that's your dream. So get your goals, take that aim, and then at the end, let's live the dream because we've been so close. And like Vince said, an era here, an era there. We're so close. We're in the neighborhood. We got it. We know what to do. We've been in this. We've been in the process. We've been in the playoffs. Now it's just time to finish.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of people that agree with you on that front. If they accomplish that goal this year, if they're going to win the national title, what's the one biggest reason they win it?
I'll say the chemistry, fighting and enjoying each other. To see the video of the guy coming in with the magic the other day. I love that. It just shows, okay, we just did spring. Then we went in camp. We just went to war against each other. And now you can see these guys still in the team meeting room, enjoying each other, bonding, laughing, having fun. I think that matters because when 2005 and 2006 for us, our chemistry was so strong, could nobody mess with us. We don't care what you were saying about us. You couldn't break us because we loved each other and we cared about each other so much that it, like what Coach has said, it's about us. It's not about anybody else. And to see them guys having fun right now, because when Coach Strong was there and Coach Tom Harmon was there, they was all over the place. The facility was getting remodeled and they didn't have places to go and be and hang out together. Now, seeing them with a new locker room and having fun together, man, that is very important downstairs. And I love that Coach let us enjoy that and have fun and brought in stuff like that to let us relax and sit back and say, man, okay, we had a good camp. Okay, now it's time to play some football. So I'm happy to see the smile. So the chemistry for me is going to be really big because if you got that, can't nobody stop you. Can't nobody break you when your chemistry is that strong.
And Bob, I agree. I think even sitting here as a fan, when you're in that room, you're not worried about anything. You're seeing yourself practice. You know who you are. The chemistry, it's fun. You're getting ready for something. As a fan, you get nervous because you can't control anything. You really don't know anything and you can't control anything. So I totally agree with Vince. The other thing I would say from the coaching standpoint, Steve's all over it. You can't have pre-snap penalties. That's discipline. You have got to stay healthy with your key players. Kansas State's running back gets hurt on the first play he's out there. So now everything they planned for him's gone. You got to change everything going into the game. You've got to do a better job in red zone offense and defense, and you got to take care of the ball. Turnovers make a difference. So if they can do those four things with good chemistry, it's going to be a fun year.
I think if Texas wins the national championship this year, it's because Arch arches, and he's Arch, and I think that's number one. But I also think it's because this defense is that good. I think it's because this defense will shut down so many opponents this year that gives Texas an advantage. That like score 10 points, score 11 points, we're good. We got the rest of it, so don't worry about it. And I think this Texas defense can be that good. All right, let's get into a schedule just a little bit before we go to break. The SEC goes to the 9-game conference schedule starting next year. I love it. I think it's great. They're also going to make you play a Power 4 conference game, which Texas has done all its life. So that's
right.
that's not an issue either.
Saying nothing new.
The three rivals, I would think we all think it's going to be Oklahoma, A&M, and Arkansas. Maybe there's a shift out of Arkansas, maybe in LSU. I don't know, but I think it'll be those three. How excited are you guys for this? Because it just feels like this rotation could be you play a couple teams here, a couple teams there. Now in a 2-year span, you're going to play every other team in the SEC besides your rivals. So you're going to get a trip to Tennessee, a trip to LSU, a trip to Alabama, a trip to Ole Miss, all Georgia, Florida. It goes on and on. How excited are you guys for this new 9-game schedule and what it does really for the landscape of college football, because it allows everybody to kind of be on the same page and move forward with whatever they decide?
Well, it's fun. I mean, I give Charles Barkley a hard time all the time. Every time I see him, he always want to compare when we was in the Big 12 and he was in the SEC. I'm like, if you looked at our numbers, like every time we play, Texas plays a SEC team, we win. So what do you have to say? What else you got to say, sir? take this L and be quiet.
And I've seen him play golf, and I've seen you swing, Vince. So I think you're good there too.
Let's go, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
I think that without question. We played that schedule last year.
Yeah.
They changed in the ACC. We had Duke, Virginia, and NC State as locked-in rival games, and then we would play everybody over a 4-year period. You'd play them 2 times.
Right.
The players love going to different places, so that was good. It won't affect the Texas, the Alabamas, the Georgias. It will affect the lower level teams because they've been able to play the weaker teams in Group of 5 and get 4 wins out of conference and put them in a better position to go to a bowl game. Mm-hmm. So if you're those lower level teams, look out, man. You got no gimmies now. Mm-hmm. And then when you've got to take a Power 4 team out of another conference, they're all calling the lower level teams in those other conferences to try to say, you want to schedule? And they said, man, we got 19 calls this morning trying to schedule us because they want to stay away from the Michigans and the Ohio States and the USCs and the Oregons. So I do think it's great for fans. It's great for TV. It's going to continue to happen. We're getting more like an NFL model every day as we move forward. But if I'm a lower level team that has trouble winning 7 a year and going to a bowl, it's not good news for me.
Hey, Vince, make sure you tell Charles next time you talk to him. Back in 83 and 84, Texas played Auburn in the non-conference both those years. They were both highly ranked, and Texas won both those games, and Bo Jackson was on those Auburn teams. Exactly. So make sure you get more
That's
time
what I'll be saying. Like, you need to check your history, big guy.
I love it.
All
right.
Be facts. Charles doesn't need all these facts.
You're right.
That gets in the way of some fun.
It's all facts. All right. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to do our underdogs of the week and get into some final Texas-Ohio State fun as the Horns get ready to go to the shoe this weekend. That's all coming up. This is The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long.
Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. And you can play with as little as $1.
This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the showdown at the shoe. Texas and Ohio State. Give me Ryan Wingo, Texas wide receiver, to go higher than 52.5 yards receiving. And give me James Peoples, Ohio State running back, to go lower than 55.5 yards rushing. Download the app today. Sign up with the promo code STAMPEDE to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code STAMPEDE. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. All right, welcome back to episode number 5 and our final segment of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns. This segment brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. We had our Underdogs of the week for the first time last week. All of us trying to get a little comfortable with college football, basically just making guesses on some guys that we thought may make a nice play here, a touchdown here. Coach not real happy with Iowa State tight end Benjamin Brahmer, who did not score a touchdown, so Mack's pick did not hit, but Vince and I's did. Vince took Jerron Tibbs, the wide receiver from Kansas State, to have higher than 25.5 yards receiving, which he did. He finished with 35, and I took Avery Johnson to have higher than 203.5 yards passing, and he went way over that. So we were
really
good there.
Excited. No, I'm really excited for you guys. It made me feel really good that my pick didn't produce and yours did. So that's okay.
Man, thank God for the little birdie that
Coach
was in
may
my
have
ear.
given us some advice. Coach may have given us some advice.
I should have given me some advice.
So let's make our picks. We're gonna talk a little Underdog Fantasy here and make our picks for the Underdogs of the week. Coach will let you start, and you can make your underdog pick for the week.
I think it's got to be Arch Manning's legs. That he's got to rush for a lot of yards to win this game because of the new offensive lineman, the pressure. That means that they didn't get sacks So I'm banking on Archie's legs being a difference in this ball game.
All right, Arch Manning higher than 25.5 yards rushing for Mack Brown. Vince Young, who are you taking?
I got to go with Wisner. I think he's 53.5, so I'm going higher. I
right.
think we're going to have to definitely run the ball to keep that offense off the field and let our defense whoop up on them, but we're going to have to run the ball and get some long drives.
It's going to be fun to see if Quintravian Wisner and CJ Baxter can get that thing going in the backfield. So Vince is going with Quintravian Wisner higher than 53.5 yards rushing. Mack and I are actually in disagreement on this one. We're talking about James Peoples in the break about can the Ohio State running back, what's going to happen there. Mack's going to say higher than 55.5 yards rushing on James Peoples. I'm going to say lower because I think because of the Texas defense and what it can do. But what we're going to do is tell you guys, if you take those 3 picks, so if you take Arch Manning higher rushing yards, James People higher rushing yards, and Quintravian Wisner higher rushing yards, you can get 6.18 times your initial entry fee if you take those 3 together. I also believe Ryan Wingo higher than 52.5 receiving yards. I think that one could be pretty low. So a lot of opportunities for you. We hope you take the chance to go to Underdog. As always, Underdog, make picks, win money. It's your opportunity to do that there. All right, let's get into our final thoughts before we get to Texas Ohio State. Finally, after 7.5 months, we get to Texas Ohio State in the shoe on Saturday at noon Eastern, 11 Central. Guys, the key matchup. What's the one key matchup that you're looking to if Texas is going to win this game? What's the biggest matchup in your mind, Vince?
Well, Bob and Coach, I think with the quarterbacks, both guys, gonna have to keep their composure. Try not to be Superman and get caught up with the media and friends and moms and dads, everybody like, you can do this, you can do that, you can do some that. You get those last minute calls, text messages.
A lot of people pulling at you. Can I get more tickets?
People pulling at you. So I think it's going to be very key for both quarterbacks to keep their composure, try not to force balls, and when it's not there, manage the game. Be a perfect quarterback of managing the game, understanding and getting the guys out of the huddle, making sure the snap cut, guys in the right position, the right formations, taking care of the ball, understanding, hey, it's not there. We got a defense, punt the ball away. All these type of things is going to make sure both guys come out on the winning side of the where they want to be at if they do that. If they manage the game, if Arch manages the game and not try to be Superman and try to put everything on his shoulders all at once in one game and kind of just go out there and play the football game and be what Coach Stark want him to be, as well as on the other side of the ball as well, I feel like both of these guys is going to come out on a successful end if they just manage the game.
Vince, how difficult is that? How difficult is it for inexperienced quarterbacks to be in a big atmosphere like that and then just do everything that you just said? I know it's easy in your mind. We can talk about it all day, but how difficult is that?
It's very difficult because of the fact that you have the ball 99% of the time and you're excited. You've been going through camp. You've been waiting for this moment. From a standpoint from saying, I get to play Texas. This is why I came to Ohio State. Vice versa, Arch. I finally got the starting job. It's my turn. It's my time. This is why I came to Texas, to play in big games like this. This is why I wore this jersey when I was 4 or 5 years old. This is my moment. This is my time. So it's extremely hard and tough to kind of keep your emotions out of it and understand the bigger overall picture. It's not about me. It's about my teammates. It's about going in here and manage this game and come out of here with a win. So if them guys do that, I feel like that pressure will help them not think about it. But it's going to be tough. But in the same time, just know that you got a coaching staff and you got a team that's behind you. You don't have to put it all on your shoulders.
Coach, how about you?
Well, the Vince is all over it. And you're talking about 106,000, the first game of the week, really one of the first major game of the season, and all eyes on it. So it's really, really tough. And I remember telling Vince once, the only stat that matters for a quarterback is a win-loss record. And Vince was 30-2. Nobody else will remember anything when you get through except that. And that's what these two quarterbacks have to think this weekend. We've talked a lot about you've got to keep from losing the opening ball game. A lot of people say, well, when you try to keep from losing, you're not trying to win. That's not true. But it seems to be a general thought with a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about. So things that you have to do to be successful, you can't make mistakes. The fewer mistakes win. If you get 3 more turnovers than they do, you're going to win the game 99% of the time. So turnovers, pre-snap penalties that Steve's been talking about the whole time, being able to run the ball. Usually the team that runs the ball the best takes the pressure off the quarterbacks, and then they win the game. Being great in the red zone both ways, and then winning special teams. If you do those 5 things every week, when you come in on Sunday morning, you come in with a smile on your face, and we'll be able to sit after this game on Saturday and say, more turnovers, really limited pre-snap penalties. Boy, we were good. We scored every touchdown on the goal line. We stopped them 4 times. Special teams killed it, man. Those guys were good. And we could run the ball. We control the line of scrimmage. And when you can run it, you can do everything else. And everybody says when you go on the road, like Texas is, you got to take your running game, your defense, and your special teams. And then you win the game.
I've got 2 questions for kind of the answer to this for me. Is Ohio State ready for Arch? Because as I said earlier, I think he exceeds expectations this year. I think he's going to be fantastic. Is that defense ready for what Arch can bring to the table? On the flip side of it, is the Ohio State offensive line ready for this Texas front 7? Because the Ohio State offensive line is replacing just about everybody. They've got 2 returning starters, but those guys were kind of in and out of the lineup last year. I think it'll be really interesting to see, can they handle what this Texas front 7 can bring. And I think Pete Kwiatkowski is going to do a tremendous job defensively on Saturday. I think we're going to see what that defense is made of. What is it in the bigger scope of things? And when you think back to 2005, Coach, do you have one story or one thing that when you got to the shoe, when you were there, when you were walking around that atmosphere before that game or in the locker room at halftime or something that really sticks out to you as, I know we're going to go win this game, or I know something good's going to happen tonight?
You can usually get a feel in pregame. Vince can tell you. But first thing, I saw John Cooper, who I loved. He was a previous coach there. I talked to Jim Tressel before the game, but Friday I talked to John Cooper for a long time. I told you I went down and I had a good conversation with the Ohio State band and had a lot of fun and wanted to show our team I was confident and relaxed. But really looking at pregame, our guys were laughing. They were focused. You can see, are you throwing and catching the ball? Is your punt catcher focused? Are your guys in the individual drills ready to go? Mm-hmm. And I could see on that field before the game, our team was a team that was there on a mission to win the game, and they were focused. They weren't scared. They weren't nervous. And that made me feel very comfortable going into the ball game.
You felt comfortable, and then you came away with a 25-22 win on one of the great moments in your tenure to go to the shoe, win that game. Obviously, vaulted you guys to stay number 2 all the way through the 2005 season, win the national championship. We'll see if this Texas team has enough to do the same as they go into this season with a lot of expectations. Number 1 team in the country in the preseason for the first time ever. We'll see if all this, but at least it's going to come to fruition now. At least we'll know what's going to happen as we finally get a game under our belts Saturday at noon. Hey, Friday from 3 to 6 Central, Mack Brown and Vince Young are going to be a part of a live stream in Columbus with a bunch of Ohio State guys. We hope you guys will take the time to go listen to this one too. Urban Meyer, you name Cardale Jones, Beanie Wells, Jack Sawyer, Braxton Miller, all these Ohio State guys are going to be there, and Mack and Vince are going to be wearing their orange, right? You're going to be going.
Absolutely.
We're okay here, right?
It will not be popular, but we'll be wearing our orange. I may have to get me a hat.
You're going to have to get that bucket hat. Vince, are you ready for the on, you got to experience it as a player. Are you ready for the onslaught of Ohio State fans coming at you on Friday?
No. Hell no.
You've already had it.
I'm not ready for that. I'm thinking about missing my flight right now.
Well, you guys are going to go into enemy territory. We'll see you guys on Friday and look forward to a great game Saturday. It's going to be a blast at the Shoe as Texas takes on Ohio State, and we finally get some college football going again. All right, for Mack
And
Brown.
Bob,
yes, no, go ahead, Coach. Go
as
ahead.
we're closing, Vince, it's a whole lot easier for you and I to go back in the Shoe after winning than it would have been if we'd have gotten our rear ends kicked.
Yeah.
So we look forward.
Our
to
chest is out a little bit now. You know?
it is.
And as you know, Vince, you said you and Selvin Young ate cereal all day. Are you going to bring some cereal with you for good luck?
Oh, yeah. I got to keep my Cinnamon Toast Crunch, baby. And my rod strip, baby. I'm ready to go, baby.
That's all you need. That's all you need. We can go ahead and guarantee the Texas win now if you're taking that with you. No, we appreciate you guys being a part of this one. Episode number 5 of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns. We ask you to always follow us on social media at The Stampede UT and get your podcast anywhere you get your podcast. You can watch us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. For Mack Brown and Vince Young, who won in Columbus in 2005, I think they believe that Horns are going to do it again Saturday. Texas, Ohio State is finally here. Thanks for joining us. This is The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns.